Hi everyone,
Hi!
welcome back to our weekly eco travel chats. We are Linda and Caleb from Bamboo and Backpacks.
Yes, and this week we are talking to Dave Shanks, the CEO of Water2Go. Water2Go basically make reused water bottles, but what makes them unique is this 3-in-1 unique water filtration system, which means that you can refill this bottle and drink water pretty much anywhere in the world if it's fresh water. I'm not going to explain it because Dave Shanks gives an amazing explanation in our chat, so I'm going to hand over to him and let him explain to you how it all works.
Yeah, let's go to it.
Do you just want to give us a brief introduction to who you are and what inspired you to create Water2Go?
Yeah, my name is Dave Shanks. I'm the founder of Water2Go. Started Water2Go in 2010, specifically after one trip when I was running a clothing company, and the trip had taken me to India, China, Indonesia, then Mauritius. And just that particular trip was even more conscious than ever of the amount of single-use plastic water bottles being thrown away everywhere, and that's what really got me started.
That's awesome.
How was this trip impact you? What way you managed to see things different than before? There was something that kind of shocked you in a particular way in the trip?
Yeah, basically, everywhere I was seeing more and more single-use plastic, specifically water bottles. But one particular factory I visited in Mauritius, which is a beautiful, pristine place, or so it should be, and I had to audit the factory for one of the UK high street retailers and check it was compliant and that they were happy with the standards and the care taken over staff and whatever. And their key objectives were: one, that it was environmentally friendly; two, female empowerment; three, making sure the staff were well taken care of. So visiting the factory, and when I was doing the audit, I saw that they were giving out 1/3 of a litre bottles to all the members of staff during the day to make sure they were rehydrated. All the members of staff, including the floor management, were female, so we were tick on the compliance lists. And then I asked them to see the water treatment plant, where the water, when they're dyeing knitwear, obviously the excess water contains the dye, and it's normally processed so it can be reused or actually fed back into the water system. So I was expecting to see a nice water treatment plant. Instead, what I saw was a huge pipe coming out of the back of the factory and the water just cascading into a filthy, rancid lake at the back of the factory. And there was no control or any kind of attempt to clean the water whatsoever. And if that wasn't bad enough, just then the back door of the factory opened, and one of the ladies who'd been serving the plastic or the water in the plastic bottles to the members of staff came out with her trolley with all the empty bottles and dumped the bottles into the same lake. And I asked the factory manager what on earth he was doing. So, don't worry, Mr. Dave, the earth takes it away.
Wow.
And I said, look, you're on an island. This will go into the soil, into the land, and eventually in the sea. And he said, yeah, but the plastic disappears. And at that stage, I realized that he was trying to do his best to take care of his staff. He just wasn't thinking about the impact of the single-use plastic. And it's at that stage where I actually thought, well, I don't know what I can do as one person, but and that's how I started the thought process about how to develop something.
Cool, that's amazing. It's a really interesting story. I think we can relate a lot to that, of how we started Bamboo and Backpacks, how while traveling we got more exposed to all this reality, especially on islands. You can see
Yeah.
more because all this trash that we as tourists or people on the island consume doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Boats can't live.
Or it gets taken away by the boatload again every day. And
Yeah.
it's very striking when you see that. Sure.
We would like to know, and I think our audience would love to hear, what makes water-to-go bottles unique. What is special about them?
Well, I guess it all comes out of that thought process. That evening, I sat at the bar. I was traveling on my own, so that's the law. You sit at the bar by yourself. I ordered a gin and tonic and asked the barman for a glass of water. I didn't want a bottle in plastic. And he said, what's the water for? And I said, to drink. He said, I'm sorry, you can't drink the tap water here. It's not good quality. This is quite a nice hotel. So then I realized it wasn't only the vessel, the actual material you use for the bottle itself. It's what's in the bottle, because bottled water in certain parts of the world is just water in a bottle, not bottled water as we would think of it being better than tap or cleaner or whatever. So I then started thinking about how we could develop reusable, recyclable materials, which would be BPA free. I mean, BPAs are the man-made estrogens we put into plastic to make them squeezy. And a lot of the bottles you get, that's where there's all these stories on the internet about people worried about chemicals passing from the plastic onto your hand or into the water. They're BPAs. And they've been linked to cancer and all kinds of health scares. So we developed a series of materials which are all Food and Drug Administration approved in the States for repeat use on food and beverages. So that means none of the materials we use can possibly contaminate or transfer anything from the materials to you or the water. But then we also realized that we needed to look at the quality of water. And the further away you are from home, the more worried you get about access to and the quality of water. So if you go to the gym, you're already starting to think, who's used the tap? Have they had their mouth or hands around the tap? If you're traveling to Europe, there's certain places you say you can't drink the tap water because it's not filtered. And the further you go away from home, the more conscious you get. So we tend to think, I'll go for bottled water. But the issue is, it's one, the impact of bottled water and the impact of the discarded bottles and single-use plastic. But secondly, there is still that query whether the water is of good enough quality to keep you safe. So we developed a 3-in-1 technology filter. So our filters are good enough to take out simple things like taste and smell to make the water taste and smell better. Then we've got 2 nanotechnologies, one which creates a very small pore size. So the holes through which the contaminants have got to pass. So think of it a little bit like a fishing net. The smaller the holes in the fishing net, the more you catch. So the smaller the holes in a filter, the more it stops things going through. And then we added a second nanotechnology, which can take really, really small things like viruses. And because it's got like a magnetic charge in the membrane, it attracts and traps things even as small as viruses. So our filters can take out typhus, cholera, and hepatitis out of the water. So we've got a really good quality bottle itself, all the materials approved. And then we've got a filter, so it doesn't matter how bad the water is, it will filter any water anywhere in the world apart from salt water. So our catchphrase is, any tap anywhere will be made safe by drinking through the spout. And as you drink through the spout, the filter's underneath, and the action of drinking pulls the water through the filter and cleans it instantly.
Amazing. And actually for people like us, it's really helpful for going out hiking or out on an adventure as well, because we don't want to always carry 5 or 6 litres of water with us when we go on a long hike, or maybe stay
exactly, yeah.
So we can take it with us and refill from a stream or something like that, and also have water on the go. And it's really helpful for that. So we use it a lot in that frame as well.
Yeah, well, I mean that whole outdoor activity, traveling, it's anywhere where you need rehydration. I mean, we deliberately build the bottles robust, but they are lightweight, so you can take them empty, especially if you're walking long distances or traveling. You don't want to be lugging heavy equipment about. You don't want to be carrying loads and loads of water. So it works in the outdoor sport, but also in the travel market. So.
And if someone was to ask you or to say, "Oh, I'm a bit worried. Like, how can I be sure that the filter really works?"
Yeah.
To reassure them with that. I've had that comment once or twice in Instagram, and I just tell them, I've been using it, or we've been using it together for almost a year, and we're fine. But if someone wanted some more kind of information, how would you reassure them?
Well, basically, we've tested the filters now globally. So we've tested them in BCS, which is one of the major labs in the States, which are all government approved. We've tested them at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine here in London. We've tested them in the Bangalore Test House, which is a big testing house in Bangalore and central India, where we took raw well water directly out of the ground. And it was filthy dirty, and put it through the filter. And then we launched last year in China. So we've tested in IMI, one of the big international labs in Shanghai. And we're proven to eliminate well in excess of 99.99% of any microbiological contaminant. People always say, "Well, come on then, Dave, what's the 0.1?" Well, if you think just picking up a glass or picking up a piece of fruit or eating a sandwich, there are bacteria and whatever on your hand. At that level, it's not going to do you any harm at all. So your body can deal with a certain amount of microbiological contaminants. So the reason we are so proud of the filter is that it's globally tested now. Now, if you're going to take water out of a puddle or out of a stream, yes, there is a leap of faith the first time. But honestly, I mean, we've got explorers and adventurers who've used the bottles in the most ridiculous scenarios. We've got Ash Dykes just finished a 4,000-mile walk the length of the Yangtze River in China, and has been taking water out of the Yangtze River. We've got another guy, Chaz Powell, who's walked the Gambia River and the Zambezi and taken water with his water to go bottle in rivers, parts of the river where the cattle are actually washing and doing what cattle do in water. So the filters are really, really good. Really, really good.
That's amazing. I'm writing down a few things because that's it. All sounds amazing.
It does, Caleb. I mean, and I always use the same analogy. I mean, you think about an old Nokia phone. I mean, 10 years ago, with a Nokia phone, they were great. Everybody used Nokias. They were the brand leaders, but all you could do was make a phone call. Now we all use smartphones. You can access the internet. You can take videos. You can do all of these fantastic things on one piece of equipment. Well, filtration technology is moving ahead at the same pace, and we are at the cutting edge of filtration technology. Nothing comes into the marketplace, and we've tried and tested it ourselves, but we are at the cutting edge of technology. So at times it does sound like this little filter can do, oh my God, it's incredible. And they are. I mean, it's the same. So I still smile when my colleagues WeChat me from China, and it's a fantastic on my phone. So it is that level of technology development. So
yeah. And how do you envision that progressing in the next 5 years, the technology development?
Well, we've got lots of things working on the technology side. We have a way of amending and building the technology, which we're doing at the moment. So my personal mission is to upscale the technology, because at the moment we've got filters this size, which can do, the smaller one does 130, this one does 200 litres. I would like to get to a stage, and we're starting the process now, of being able to get much, much larger scale filters to handle disaster relief, to handle access to clean water in rural areas, for example, in some of the underprivileged areas in the world. With our existing membrane, we're looking at options to build even more into the membrane, so that there could be certain areas, like, for example, if you go to Ghana, they have a big problem at the moment with mercury and cyanide in the water table. And that's because mercury and cyanide are being used in the gold mining processes to flush out the dust so you can see the dust. Now, that's in the water table now. So we're working on technologies where we believe in the next 3 to 5 years would be able to program a filter for a specific task, for a specific area. One of the big things we're working on at the moment is a big scare on the internet about the contraceptive pill and the amount of hormones which are passed into the water. And none of the standard domestic water supply companies can filter that out. So we're working on something for the next couple of years where we'll be able to filter that out without changing our existing performance, just enhancing it. And then the second thing is that we're looking at all new materials as well. There's a huge amount of resource and development on things like PLAs, which are plant-based plastics, which are for the first time completely compostable. Now, compostable is relative. It takes 500 years for existing plastics to break down. These would take between 50 and 60 years. But you're actually thinking about, in commercial composting programs, you could reuse and repurpose all of the plastics into some like compostables. We're also looking at things like bamboo, cornstarch as developments. And we anticipate that these new PLAs and materials will start to use on the filter carcasses probably in the next year to 18 months. And that'll take us in the first step. As the technology for molding and blowing bottles with using those material catches up with the development on the actual material itself, we believe probably in 3 years' time, you'd be able to have a compostable plastic bottle.
Wow, that's really cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That leads actually to a question that I think is very important. Nowadays, there is this big movement against plastic, that plastic is our biggest enemy nowadays. I think our audience, we would like to hear more about your thoughts about this topic.
Yeah, sure.
Because many water-to-go bottles are made out of plastic, so I think that for people sometimes that they don't have much knowledge about the topic, it can be a little bit shocking.
Yeah. No, I understand. I understand that. I mean, I think what is really important to think about is plastic. We've invented a fantastic material in plastic. It's lightweight, it's durable. Used in the right way, plastic is good. The problem isn't plastic. The problem is us. It's how we use plastic. The factory manager wasn't thinking about how he was using the plastic. He was actually doing something really good, which was rehydrating his staff, but didn't think of the impact. And I always say the same thing. You don't type an email and then throw away the keyboard because it's plastic, because we associate some worth to that. We don't use your mobile phone and then throw it away because it's plastic. So what we've got to do, we've got to start thinking about plastic isn't the problem. Single-use plastic is. Single-use plastic we don't attribute any worth to. If you don't attribute any worth to something, you throw it away. And unfortunately, whilst I'm sitting here not too far from London and there's fantastic recycling programs in the area, that's not the case everywhere around the world. But the other thing is that if you actually track the 12 to 18%, depending which figures you believe, of single-use plastic water bottles, which in somewhere like Europe, where the majority, where we probably have a good infrastructure for recycling, very few of those bottles are recycled in Europe. They're sorted, and the majority they were going to China, they go to India to be hand sorted into good plastic and bad plastic, and these great big mountains of plastic. The bad plastic goes into landfill in India. So you've got a water bottle, you've thrown that away or recycled it. Somebody checks to see if it's any good in the UK, not quite sure. We ship it out to India for hand sorting, and the bad stuff goes in a landfill in India. I mean, you couldn't write a more crazy story. You couldn't, if you actually try to write a book and say, this is the premise of the book, this is what we do with plastics, nobody would believe you. It's just so crazy, you know. So the nice thing is, again, going back to my filter, when you're finished with the filter, if you put pressure on that with your foot, that will break the two end caps away from the carcass. Those three pieces of plastic go into plastic recycling, and the membrane itself goes on the compost heap and biodegrades. The bottle itself, unless it's burnt or something horrific happens to the bottle, ought to be the last bottle you ever need to buy, because they're built to last. So we're taking away that whole element of single-use plastic and replacing it with good selected materials which are durable, lightweight, and will last forever.
Yeah, I must say actually we have ours here as well, and it feels very robust, and I'm also quite surprised with how much we've been taking it in our backpacks and on buses, that it hasn't even really marked or scratched that much either.
Yeah.
You take care of it, but it always, when you're traveling, you always maybe drop it at some point, or it gets knocked by something, and you can see that it's a very good quality, robust bottle. So I'm very impressed with it. It's been great.
Well, it's always been something. Well, from the outset, it goes back to that same thought process. I wanted something that would stop people thinking about single-use plastic, and if I gave them a bottle which just wasn't up to scratch, or it wasn't very good quality, that it wouldn't do the job, because it wouldn't be the bottle you can keep reusing and reusing. I mean, I've got a bottle at home which I'll probably be using now for about 5 years, and yes, it's a little bit scratched because it's been in the rucksack, it's been on various different beaches, we've been traveling, but it's still viable, and it will still continue to be viable, so.
And the packaging that you sell the bottles and the filters in, do they contain plastic as well? Because again, there's another movement around people questioning a lot about the packaging that their products come in. So what kind of packaging do you use?
Right. All the cardboard packaging we use is a minimum of 65% recycled card. The reason it's not 100% card is not because I don't want to. It's just the fact it's very, very difficult to print at a cost-effective way on 100% recycled card. It just doesn't take the print stuff as well. We currently use a plastic cable tie to hold the bottle in place on the 75 centilitre. That's made out of completely recycled plastic. So we're as environmentally friendly in our approach as we are with the actual product itself. And just on that front, we are revising and reviewing all of our packaging at the moment, and we will do away with the cable tie that holds a bottle in place, and it'll be just a card band on it, which again will be recycled. Just on plastics and recycling in particular, a lot of people say to us, do you use recycled plastics on your bottle? Now, you can probably tell, I do a lot of work on tracking what we do and how we do it and what materials we use. Not one supplier of recycled plastic can give me a provenance certificate which says that none of the plastics which are being used to go into the recycled plastic aren't heavy industrial or contain BPAs or heavy chemicals or anything like that. So the majority of recycled plastic goes into other usages, Like, for example, there's a fantastic company doing all of the cables used for wireless and TV under the ground now. The encasings are made out of recycled plastic because there's no problem with it being for consumption. But we could not and would not use recycled plastic in our bottles because I couldn't guarantee the quality of the material then. So you can, there's still an awful lot of work to be done in how we recycle plastic and repurpose it going forward. I mean, there's an awful lot of work being done at the moment, but there's still lots more to do. So.
Oh, that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where this whole eco movement and awareness growing is where we expect technology to catch up with the time.
Yes. Yeah.
We are realizing, I think, nowadays that we need to change, make all these changes.
We do, Caleb. I mean, the world has to change. You know, I don't believe it. I know it's contentious. I don't think there is a world without plastics. I don't think you can have a plastic-free world. So my spectacles here, which I use for reading, they're made out of plastic. You know, the lenses are made out of plastic now. Our phones are made out of plastic. Transport, doesn't matter if it's a put in India, or it's a boat, or it's a train, you know, plastic parts, plastic tubing, plastic hosing, plastic seats. Plastic is great. But, you know, the people who say we've got to have a world without plastic are not living in the real world. We've got to have a world without single-use plastic. And I think that can come about. There are more people when I started this business in 2010 and started talking about reusable, recyclable plastics to cut down on single-use plastic waste, people looked at me as if I was crazy. Oh, we just recycle everything, you know. And it's only the last 2 or 3 years that the momentum has switched and there's a sea change in people's attitudes. So it is changing, but I've said before, we need people to be aware of the difference. We need people to start changing their attitude, and it starts with one person changing their mind, influencing their partners, their family, and whatever, and then moving that forward. Then there's little pockets of people who understand the implications, and that's how we change things. And that's what we've got to try and do. So something like this is a great help for Water to Go, because we get the word out there. And, you know, it's great to talk to people who understand or are kindred spirits. You know, I just don't want to be, I think it'll take a couple of generations, but people will look back at our generation probably now and say, the awareness was there the willingness to change? And I think that's just starting. I mean, I've got 18-year-old twins who are so environmentally conscious, not because of what I do, but they see the impact of what people my age have done to the planet. We've got to change, you know. There's only one planet, you know, it's... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and taking on what you say, Water to Go is very helpful for us, because while talking with you, I was thinking like, well, I can't develop the technology that Water to Go is developing, and if we can help to spread the voice and let other people know what is going on, it's our duty to do it.
Yeah.
Because you are doing yours, what you can do, and we are doing what.
Yeah, I mean, we're still a small business. We need to get the word out there. But you know, I can't abide people who say, well, there's only me, I can't do anything. If you don't start with yourself and you don't start with some kind of attitude change. I mean, I could have sat in that bar in Mauritius and said, oh, I can't impact it. I certainly didn't think I'd be having an interview 9 years on and talking about the environment. That wasn't anywhere near the forefront. But this has become all encompassing for me. You know, every morning I wake up and what can we do? You've spoken to Dom in marketing. We've got 3 guys in marketing there whose job is just to get the name out there, get people to understand what we're doing. But I mean, even if it's not Water to Go, first step is get a reusable bottle, a reusable teacup. Don't get onto these, throwing the Starbucks coffee cups away. And in places where you are, so Central and Latin America, if they see us starting to change our attitude and cutting down on what we do as foreigners and as tourists, it sets an example. You know, we've got to make sure that when we leave places, we leave them in the same type of state as we found them in, or help them improve. You know, I mean, I was talking to Andy from the Galapagos Conservation Trust a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that the amount of debris and single-use plastic and plastic bottles they're getting, even in Galapagos now, the most deserted beaches, you know, we just got to stop it, you know. We just got to stop.
Yeah.
Especially it's a very unique place, Galapagos. We managed to discover how incredible it's like a sanctuary for wildlife.
Yeah.
To take care of that, there are not many places like that on Earth.
No.
The other thing that you were mentioning, it's very interesting how when you go here to a supermarket or to make shopping, how locals realize if you're local or not because you reject a plastic bag or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, of course. Tourists don't like plastic bags.
Yes, yeah.
We've been told that a lot.
Yeah.
In Peru,
Yeah.
Bolivia, here, and even in Argentina was very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've started working with the Belize Tourism Board, and the Belize government is one of the first governments to take the initiative of banning single-use plastics. So if we can get it at supermarket level on one side, a government level on the other side, and individuals coming from both sides, we can make a change. You know, as I say, it'll not happen in one generation, but we've got to be able to make that change. You know, so.
Well, Dave, thanks for your time.
No,
We
you're
really
welcome.
appreciate the conversation. Like always, very eye-opening for us, and hopefully for our audience also.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And if anybody needs anyone's got any questions, then just go to the main website, and we've got an info@query desk. So if anybody's got any questions about the product or anything like that, and you guys are promoting the product for us, we really appreciate that. So, all right.
You to do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's our job.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you
Fantastic.
so much for your time
All right,
again.
take
Dave.
care.
We'll see
You're
you
welcome.
So that was an amazing chat with Dave. Thanks for all your knowledge and sharing with us all this information.
Yeah, we've been using our water to go bottle this whole year. It's been a lifesaver and we absolutely love it. So if you want to follow them or check them out to find out more about how to get your bottle and how it can help you, check them out at Water to Go, Facebook, Instagram, website, the whole lot.
Yeah, it's also good to let you know, guys, we've been traveling all around South America. We travel Morocco and many different places where people get normally very sick, and we haven't had any of those issues. So we think that is thanks to Water to Go.
Definitely.
And also we wanted to let you know that Water to Go supports some amazing charities that you should check in the website. Every year they have new projects with charities, and we think that this is also very important for brands like this to be doing these amazing kind of things.
Definitely. This year they're supporting Malaria No More UK and also the African Wildlife Foundation. They have some really nice branded bottles, so if you buy a bottle with either of those charities' logo on, some of the money that you pay will end up being donated directly to those charities. So we also really urge you to check that out and make some contribution there, because it's a really great cause.
So if you like this chat and the other ones, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more videos like this.
Great. See you next time.
See you next week.